With the new upgraded firing range in Apex Legends, players are getting extremely good mechanics really fast, and you need a way to keep up. So in this video, I'll be showing you an aim training and warm-up routine in the firing range. This will help you compete with the best players and allow you to play at your full potential. All of the drills in this video work on both mouse and keyboard and controller, so there's no reason why you shouldn't be testing them out yourself. You can do all of them or stick to one or two depending on how much time you have. So once you load into the firing range, you want to grab your two favorite weapons or the two you want to practice with the most. For me, it's going to be R99 and the flatline. Make sure you have infinite ammo reloads on. Then grab the attachments you want. For me, I'm going to grab extended light mags, the gold ones. The reason I do that is because it allows me to shoot one of my guns. Then while I'm shooting that one gun, let's see, my other weapon reloads. So there's less downtime in the game. I can just constantly be shooting instead of having to, if I take this off, shoot, reload. See, my reload actually takes longer than shooting my mag, so I'm spending more time reloading than actually shooting my gun. That's why I have extended mags on, but you might want to practice without them on just because sometimes you won't have attachments in game. And then I like to also grab the standard stocks just because it allows me to reload faster. So again, I'm shooting, reload, I reload even faster, so everything is just less downtime. You never want downtime when warming up or practicing. That's why I like the standard stocks. But then at the same time, it also increases or it decreases your aim drift. So it will technically be easier to aim with the standard stock on. So you might want to practice without it sometimes just because you won't always have the standard stock in game. So sometimes you might want to practice without it on. And then for optics, just use the optics that you either use most often in game or the ones you just need to get better with. For me, I need to get better with the Digi. So I'm going to put on the digital threat on my R9. Then the flatline, I like to use the 2x bruiser. So I'm going to put that on. Then once you get your loadout set up, you can go to one or two spots. Either these buildings back here. So either these buildings, a lot of players like to practice here, but I'm not the biggest fan of that spot. Sometimes I do it, but what I like to do is actually go to this building. I think this building is much better. As there's two floors, you can head glitch these stairs. You can slide under here. There's a zip line here. You can also play the roof. And it's just really good. There's armor swaps down here if you need them. And there's a box here if you need any more loot. And there's also one over there. So what you're going to want to do is go to your customized range. Infinite ammo reloads on. I prefer having dynamic stats off usually just because when you see accuracy at the top, it kind of gives you bad information, as of course you want good accuracy, but a lot of times if you see the number, you're going to start playing differently. A lot of times in the game, you want to be pre-firing. So you want to be like kind of firing before you go around the corner. Just because it lets you get the most damage off in the shortest amount of time. But if you have accuracy on, every time you're pre-firing, you're going to be actually dropping your accuracy a bit, so it could be kind of misleading having it on. But for the sake of this video, I'll keep it on. Hit markers off. Target speed, this doesn't matter because the targets aren't the dummies. The targets are actually those. Shield level, you want to set this up to mythic. Movement, you want to set this all the way to the right onto random choice. It's kind of emulates the actual players in a real match. And then stance, keep it on stand. I don't recommend crouch or random stance because if you have it on random stance, you see they crouch for far too long. And I don't know, that's just not really how players play in game. It's not really a crouch spam, so I usually just keep it on stand. But they also just strafe faster on stand, so it's a little bit harder to hit them, which is what you want. Movement speed, keep it on random or run. I usually keep it on random. Dynamic spawn distance, either close or mid-range. The only problem with having it on close is that sometimes they spawn too close and you kind of get overwhelmed with like 5 different enemies on you at once. But it could be good practice having it on close. Dynamic dummy spawning on. Sometimes you notice that all the dummies disappear and you just can't see them. What you want to do if this happens is go over to dynamic dummy spawning, turn that off for a second, then turn it back on. And then they'll start to spawn again. So if they ever disappear, dynamic dummy spawning off and then back on. You can refresh dummies if you want, spawn new ones. And then this is where the fun part is. This is where you really start warming up. As soon as you're ready, you want to switch shooting, click on this left arrow, and you go to full combat. Now they're going to emulate actual players in the game and they'll start firing it. You want to be practicing your aim on these dummies while using movement and doing things you would actually use in game. So you're going to be wanting to use cover, use different movement tech. Like I can use this zip line. Play on the roof. Let's do a lot of different things that you do in an actual match. And then if you need to, you can go down here and there's always an armor swap. And it spawns instantly. So you could just constantly be clicking on this and you'll never need to actually heal. Yeah, use cover, use head glitches. Make sure you're always moving around. You never want to be staying in the same spot all the time. And then once you get low, you see I'm pretty low right now. You don't want to completely die because if you do, you're going to spawn all the way back over there. Instead, one thing you could do, simply go to your character select and switch legends. Once you switch legends, you'll fully heal all your health and shields. So you never need to really heal. There's no reason you need to be popping shield bats or med kits in the range because you can just switch legends and you'll full heal. Another thing I really like about all this practice is that it helps you get used to splitting enemies apart. If you have it on full combat and close, you see there's a lot that spawn really close to you. And if you stay in the same spot for too long, you'll start to get overwhelmed by enemies. See, there's enemy there, enemy there. In a few seconds, they're all going to be pushing me, and you can't really do much with like 3 enemies in front of you. So it's good practice for splitting apart enemies, constantly moving, and try to take like 1v1s. Try to never have more than 1 or 2 enemies shooting at you at once. And that's how you really get the most use out of the firing range. See, I'm splitting apart the enemies. That's 1 enemy right there. 1 enemy right here. See? 1 enemy. You never want to have more than 1 enemy shooting at you at once. Once you do that for a while, you'll find your aim is a lot better and you're actually really warmed up. And then you can do one of 2 things. You can go up here and then shoot the enemies below you and practice like that. The reason I like to do this is because aiming straight down, if you already know, is actually probably the hardest type of aim in the game. Shooting straight down at enemies, it just feels really awkward, and just try it out for yourself. It's not easy. Kind of emulates if you're on top of a building and there's enemies below you. You'll find you do that a lot, like pretty often in game, and it's pretty hard to shoot enemies like this. So it's definitely something you should be practicing. So yeah, you can go up here, or you can also just shoot enemies down from up here. Yeah, you're just practicing like that. If you don't see any enemies, what you could do, I recommend switching dynamic spawn distance to mid-range or far. Otherwise, they spawn right under you and you can't actually see them. Then you'll start seeing them spawn. Practice like that. It is actually pretty hard to do, so this is great practice. Also gets used to your recoil control. Then another thing I like to do that most people haven't really talked about is I go up on here, climb up, then switch this to usually run, and then try to track enemies while I'm standing on it. You'll find it's actually not very easy. If you're really feeling it, you can switch it over to zip line and you'll go really fast. Yeah, that's just too hard, especially on controller. So I'll switch it over to run. And I'm just going to practice tracking enemies when I'm on this. Now, the reason you want to be doing this is because it helps you practice your aim in situations where you can't control your movement. For example, if you get hit by a Maggie wrecking ball, your aim's going to go all over the place. You're going to be bouncing up and down. So practicing stuff like this is going to get used to playing in situations like that and still having consistent aim. Another thing I love to do, I don't always do it, but it's a ton of fun. I go over here and then I get a single fire weapon. Right now, I'm just going to use the flatline and switch it over to single fire. And then I shoot these targets kind of like I'm doing a budget scout of action challenge. And then I just flick between them, shooting the targets and just trying to be as fast as possible while still having good aim. You could even go all the way back there if you want, but that's not easy at all. I just like to flick between these targets. The reason you want to be doing this is because it improves your timing when shooting. Whenever you're doing this, you're basically timing when you pull the trigger or when you push on the left mouse. Yeah, just keep practicing this and you'll find your timing gets really good and you'll just be a faster player overall. You can kind of challenge yourself by looking at the top right. You hold X to reset and you can look at your accuracy. So you try to keep around like I would say probably 80-90% accuracy is what I like to go for. Yeah, but for this, I usually like to focus on speed over accuracy. Be as fast as possible, really gets used to your sensitivity. And it's a ton of fun, so I'll just keep on doing this for a while, and that's that. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like, and YouTube thinks you would enjoy this video up on the screen now.